welcome back. We're now on the season 2 of the Daredevil Netflix series, and I will have to say, my first complaint actually derives from the fact that he still can't knock someone out in one hit. Like, I mean, we are talking superheroes. I get it, he doesn't have super strength or super speed, but it's just, look, if the 90s animated Spider-Man series can get Deadpool and Daredevil right, but a series focused on them can't, you screwed up, Netflix. Man, though, oh wow. The Punisher was perfect casting. Like, just, My problem is that everybody that wants to talk about race swapping never mentions Netflix like they're immune to it. Consider, there and Punisher is not a Jew. He has always been white. He has been white as paper. Now, granted, a more tan version because the war was the Middle East. I get it, but if you're gonna sit there and complain about things, you gotta admit where the past has messed it up. You can't glorify Netflix because of Disney making the mistakes they did when they made these mistakes worse. Like, let's talk about how the fact that until the end of this season, Kingpin wasn't officially even having his name to Kingpin. He still doesn't have his home base of his world empire as New York. He's literally just trying to take over his city. That's it. At this point, I have to say, I'm sure there's going to be no mention of, and little spoiler, I've already watched the third season, there is no mention of Echo, her father, and Miss Bishop, or the Tracksuit Gang. Now, the Tracksuit Gang is the one that's the most bothersome because technically that was in the comics. This is tribute to the comics. Now, granted, I get it. Everybody being like, come on, bro. It's a little cringe, but that's the point of it. They're stupid. They're incompetent. And it was a whole part of the thing. Like, give Disney credit where they deserve it. They did way better with Kingpin, because Kingpin ain't punching stone and hurting his hand like he did at the end of season 1. Like, whew. That's bad. Like, that's really bad. But let's really think about this. No one in the MCU heard of the Punisher and everything he was doing? Like, what? Like, look, I get it. Y'all are trying to claim that this should be canon, but here's my problem with that. If it's canon and it's connected, beyond all the problems, why is there no mention of any major MCU event? Like, by now we've had the Stark Expo where Iron Man 2 had his whole deal. Like, yes, that should have been mentioned in season 1, but by now someone should have mentioned it. We're involving a news company and journalism in this series at this point. We still can't find any reference to that. No Stark Expo, like seriously, one of the biggest things. Also, what do people mean by thinking that was a smart idea to say and have Foggy say that this is the center or ground zero of vigilantism? I mean, also, with them harping so much on vigilantes, it's like, that's really awkward. They don't mention the Avengers. They don't mention Spider-Man running around. They don't mention any of this. Like, at this point, you're not mentioning major things that have happened. Like, I believe the Civil War had happened at this point. There's a lot of stuff that led up to that, like the whole Sokovian incident, Ultron, the Sokovian Accords not being mentioned, and then they have Daredevil bring it up in She-Hulk as a pass note they've been canceled. When did that happen? Y'all had the perfect chance to sit there and go, oh, we could canonize this, and no, y'all didn't even try. It's actually pretty embarrassing and kind of sad that anyone calls this canon, unless they're trying to go, well, this can be a variant timeline, and like check my dual timeline short out in the Geeky Guru shorts. But really, I'll just cover it kind of lightly here. All you have to do is put the little variant timeline thing at the bottom of the screen like they were doing in the Loki series. It's not that hard. And then instantly, boom, it's canonized as a variant timeline. We're not going to say the variant timelines that Loki covered aren't canon because they were a variant timeline. That's the point of the multiverse. That's how the multiverse has been defined. So 100%, this is guaranteed to be that. Like, with everything the Punisher did, the fact that the DODC hasn't shown up, the FBI hasn't shown up, Iron Man hasn't shown up, like, what? This would be his whole thing. You're telling me that S.H.I.E.L.D. hasn't sent Hawkeye after this guy? You're telling me that nobody has shown up? Like, Spider-Man's not involved? Like, that would have been a killer deal, Netflix. Why didn't you even try? I mean, you screwed up with Jessica Jones. Peter Parker went to school with her as a kid. Like, what? Jeez, y'all could have gotten the timelines right and added that in and just boom. But it wasn't. Y'all literally, until season 2 of Jessica Jones, didn't even mention a hero. And the one you mention is the one that I can say in anything I create. Because Captain America is literally in 7 different fandoms. Because Captain America may be his title, but Captain is also a rank in the military. And America is a last name. So I can put Captain America in anything as long as he's not a super soldier wearing the, stars and stripes. Now, in Jessica Jones season 1, they did show the kid with the Captain America toy, but they just said his name once and kept referring to him as Captain. He's always going to have Captain with him. That's because they got away with it. They weren't allowed to truly reference it. Again, they wouldn't be calling him by off-brand names. No one did that at all in the MCU. No newspaper, no news coverage, no nothing where they didn't name them by their actual hero names. So it's not a defense. You want to see a bad example of defending this, go check out my content call-out episode 1, and you'll see someone really stretching so bad they might as well be Mrs. Fantastic. But let's get back to this. Man, I really hope that the canonical comic main continuity version of Elektra was not this cringe. And then they just kind of rushed the story. I mean, didn't that take part over years in the comics, and yet they rush it in 1 season? Like, it just wasn't good. But man, that suit, Daredevil suit, was so good. And I was waiting for him to pull out the weapons, and one episode, just like the suit in the first season, he only puts it and starts using his traditional weapons once. And you know what? Again, the 90s animated series so did this way more justice. Like, he could click them together, take them apart. He did the flinging thing, but not once did he swing around town. Not once. And you're like, and I've seen many commenters come at me about it and being like, no, he does swing around. No. Swinging across town is not the same thing as getting down from a building really quickly. Just go look up the Daredevil episodes within the Spider-Man 90s animated series. It's on Disney+. Just go look for it. And you'll see Spider-Man and Daredevil swinging through the town to go after and go where they need to. It's truly, like, priceless to me that a 90s cartoon can do better than $1 million budget for a series on Netflix. Like, y'all just, I wish y'all wouldn't have done Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, or anything, I'm forgetting the name. Oh yeah, Defenders, because that's not actually an accurate name at all. Like, you're just crapping on the history of that team. No, they've never been a part of that. That's been the Heroes for Hire, and Heroes for Hire includes way more characters in time. But like Luke Cage, man, like, I like some of these shows, what I'm watching right now. I just have to say that y'all probably shouldn't have done them, just so that y'all could have done, like, Daredevil accurately. Like, the 90s animated series, again, because it's going to be my continuous reference, because a children's show gets it better than Netflix. But it shows him looking out on the street and he plainly sees everything. Like the rims, the windshield wipers, people walking, their faces. It just, now granted, it had this reddish tone to it. But, so, that's how it works. This series goes, oh, well, then Daredevil can't hear the hand. He could see them. Like, what? That's embarrassing and disrespectful to the character. Especially if you're trying to, like, Penny Sound, who sat there and go, these aren't assassinations or getting the characters wrong. This is adaptions. Yeah, I know. They Netflixed it up. They made the crapflix version of Daredevil where he can't even freaking see with his power. That's literally the point. And she's like, well, these are adaptions. Yeah, if you want to make superheroes realistic and go on with that oxymoronic concept, like, what part of super do you not understand? They're supposed to be beyond normal and all of that. Even the ones that don't have, like, super strength, speed, or durability. Like, I just don't understand it. This was an amazing story, but again, like season 1, you could have just put the blind samurai in from the 80s, and this would have worked. Like, it's not a big deal. You could have had him be a lawyer. Wouldn't have been a big deal. It'd have been an adaptation of that character in a more modern day and giving him a job instead of him being an ex-soldier, which would explain a whole lot of different things. You know, you change up less about the series than they changed up the character, and you don't even have to have him. You could pretty much remove him from it, and it would not affect the story. It's not like beyond exceptional hearing was a power, but that's what bothers me. The Netflix series just continuously, the further and further I go in, steps further and further away from the MCU. And I'm like, oh yay, they mentioned the Raft. Yeah, the Raft is actually a name of an actual prison out there. There's also a large ship in, I forget which fandom it was in, but there's a large ship called the Raft. There's a floating thing called the Raft. Not once did they mention it's in the middle of the sea when they were describing. They just said it's in the middle of nowhere. Not the ocean. Like, that's one word difference. That's all you had to do. And it would have been connected. But again, I'm assuming y'all legally couldn't, or else why wouldn't you? And let's not forget, back in the day when all these shows were coming out, I remembered all the fans being like, yeah, it's not canon. It's kind of like the WB shows and, you know, the Justice League that's being built up. It's not canon to it. It's funny how like DC fans are so much more sensible than Marvel fans, and I hate that because I like them both equally. But there's just something wrong with a lot of people that are fans of Marvel not understanding how to respect characters and the difference between canon and uncanon. And it's pretty clear. Like, at this point, if you're saying no other heroes, the DODC or anything doesn't show up because of what Frank Castle is doing, you're insane. If you think Kingpin wouldn't have been in the Raft, you're insane. If you're designing Kingpin where he can't take out 7 martial artists, like masters, that know how to kill easily, then you're just screwing the character up. If you have him climb to the top instead of already being on the top, you're screwing it up. Like, I'm sorry. Also, the hand, like, I know I'm going to harp on this a lot, but, like, I have to admit, I do blame Disney for using the 10 Rings as an organization and making that crap up. Where it's the hand. Like, the Mandarin is one of the top leaders of the hand. Where's the magical powers of the hand? Like, where? They're martial artists with magical powers. They know cast magic. They use, like, ancient alchemy, which is effectively chemistry and stuff like that. Totally different, but they're trying to just knock it off the same. Also, as a practitioner of weapons and hand-to-hand skills, I still really miss the actual traditional fighting of, you know, Daredevil, I'm really sad that it took Disney to actually get his flippy and acrobatic stuff correct, where he could just limbo under an attack and slide forward as he grabs one of your legs and pulls you on the ground. Like, where is this? Where is that just slightly more to boxing? Like, I showed my roommate last night the fight scene in Defenders between Iron Fist and Daredevil, and the moment they both did a flip kick, I'm like, look, there it is. There was their obligated flippy that they have to do one every big fight, or he'll just look like a kickboxer with some Muay Thai skills, but not a martial artist, really. Just a generic MMA person. And, like, no offense to MMA, I'm not discrediting it. I'm just saying, if you're going to do the fantasy of this character, it's supposed to be a bit of unrealistic kung fu-like fighting. But no, I can't tell they're using ninjutsu at all, and that's what Stick would have been teaching them. It's really bad, like really bad. You have a guy that's been training and watching and listening and learning everything he could about boxing, still not being able to knock people out. Like, it pretty much is only slightly better than that hallway fight that is glorified from the first season. And I'm like, dude, I don't even train routinely anymore, and I'm embarrassed for his level. Like, really? You can't knock a basic grunt out in, like, 2 hits? The whole group of guys just keeps getting back up because you can't put them down? I'm sorry, but some of the commenters have come out and been like, no, it's actually a lot harder to knock someone out, and I'm only telling you, get a better teacher. The guy that taught me, my roommate, he's taught me a whole lot. It's not the only teacher I've ever had, but look, man, once you start punching like wood and stone, and it's not that hard to knock someone out. I'll actually, if y'all want, bring out a video of where he's demonstrating some of this concept, where we also look up references to where like sheriffs and other police have just one-shot dudes in the chest, and it only takes 3 inches of compressing for your heart to shut down. That's not actually that hard to do. And if you're like, well, this guy's really trained up, yeah, what if your opponent is too? Then it's back to normal, and it's not hard to do. So what do you actually do to avoid this? You turn with the hit, you move, you're blocking the hit after it's made contact, you're doing a whole lot to diminish the inertial transfer. You know, that's the point, and we don't see any evidence of this. The choreographers, now granted, I have looked up, and there is some kind of but that kind of position surrounding the budget and what it was worth putting on, and the choreography was just not one of them. And obviously in season 1, neither was having a suit for Daredevil. I don't really have much else to say except this is still cool story, but it's not Daredevil to me. If it was Daredevil, there wouldn't be so much wrong with him. Kingpin wouldn't be climbing up, and the Hand would use magical powers, and oh yeah, their sword work is like atrocious. Like, what is up with everyone in Hollywood thinking that swinging a sword means swinging it like a bat? Like, when do you actually, without a cleaver, just chop just the meat you're cutting up for dinner? Like, I don't know if you cook for yourself, but let's think about it. You put the knife on the meat and you slice it, right? It's not really that much different with a sword unless you're stabbing someone. And yeah, it's pretty hard to screw up stabbing someone technique on film, but the slicing, that was embarrassing. These guys, like, I could just wear decent enough armor and it's not going to do shit. So to be completely clear, the choreography is still crap. The disrespect to the characters is still top notch. And we can't even build upon a great story arc for Daredevil. We just got to constantly be letting him let people down. Like, granted, that is a part of his story, but like, could we not let him and Karen be happy for at least a season? I mean, thanks, Netflix. Now we know why all Karens are pissed off. But realistically, again, this was not a horrible story, just not a good Daredevil story. And I'll give you a little hint. It doesn't get much better when you start going into the other series. But the next one from this I'll be releasing will be on the Luke Cage series, season 1, followed by Iron Fist, then the Defenders. So I'm already done with the Luke Cage one. I actually have to push myself through the last 5-6 episodes of Iron Fist. I hope it gets better, but my choreography complaints get way worse. The budget problems affected that show way more, especially the character himself of Danny Rand. Whew. Only one fist, man. That's horrible. But hey, if y'all'd like to continue to hear my series on this, go ahead, do all the normal stuff, and I'll catch y'all next time.